Hello there, world of tankers. Welcome to the channel. I'm your host, Droodles Blitz, and in today's video I'll be playing the 3 best beginner tanks in the game. Being a beginner can sometimes be very challenging, especially when there's so many different vehicles to choose. In today's video, I'll be going over the 3 tanks that I think are the most forgiving, that are the most fun and capable, especially when you are just starting off. The first tier 10 we're talking about is the American tier 10 Heavy, the T110E5. This vehicle has so many great capabilities going for it. It has 8 degrees of gun depression, allowing it to work any ridgeline quite comfortably. It has ridiculously good accuracy. In fact, it's one of the most accurate tanks in tier 10. It has really solid damage per minute. It has ridiculously good mobility for a heavy. And when you pair all of these things together, it just creates a solid tank. It has no real downsides. It has a lot of health, a lot of mobility, a lot of armor, a lot of DPM, and accuracy. Plus, it has crazy good penetration values. So there's really never a situation when you're driving this tank and you're like, oh darn, I'm about to get outplayed. I mean, sure, autoloaders are a threat. Going up against vehicles that are able to clip you, track you, they're always going to be a problem. But what's nice is that because this tank has such good turret armor, and because it has a lot of health, you still can do quite a good chunk in return. So here we are on Alpenstadt, which is an okay map. We don't really have any support from heavies, though. There's only 2 heavies, and one of them is a tier 9. So I'm not going to go to the heavy flank. We're going to go over towards the medium flank and see what we can do. We have the T100LT, CS63, T54. We got a whole bunch of tanks here. Now you'll notice that the E5 is actually pretty fast. We're already chilling at 43, 42 kilometers per hour right now. Like, this tank has an incredibly quick power to weight ratio, which allows it to kind of do whatever it wants, which is honestly fantastic. So, well, I'm going to see if we can potentially cross here, and we'll see how this ends up working, but we got the Waffenträger in the back. Let's aim it on this tank and load in a high explosive. Boom. 490 damage there. That's a pretty juicy shot. However, that T30 might be a big problem. We're going to aim it on that T30, which we don't actually end up penning. And somehow that concept actually saw us. This is going to be really annoying. We're about to lose a lot of health. Oh, never mind. T30 somehow screwed that shot up. That's pretty tragic, bro. Alright, let's back up here. I know that the... Yep. That was a bad play for me, I'll admit. I played pretty awful there. Oh well. We're going to take one more blind shot at the Waffenträger. I don't think it's a bad idea. There you go. And what I should be doing is moving over to the T100LT over here. This is what I should have done to begin with, because this is by far the best play to make. So we can now move up and aim it on the KPZ, who isn't really a threat. We have the WZ as well. None of these players really threaten me. I have so much armor in this position that... Oh, just bounced a light tank turret. Gotta love that. This tank does have really good pen, just sometimes it doesn't work out in your favor. Alright, well, let's see what we can do here. We got the KPZ, we got the Lion, we got the WZ, which we do get a nice pen into. Sweet. We're still chilling. We got 1,500 health left as well, so it's not like we're low on hit points. And we're in a hull down spot, which gives us basically just, like, free range to do whatever we want here. None of the enemy team can really do anything to stop me at this point. We have the WZ, which, again, I'm just going to get another shell into. There you go. Nice 354. And the 50M gets a nice shell into that player. We reload again. Let's see. We got the KPZ in front, which we are going to get a nice tracking shell into. Not really sure what that Kampfpanzer's gameplay was, but now they don't have much gameplay because they're knocked out of the game. Alright, we have the line in the back, which, again, we get another nice shell into for 400. You can see how chill this experience is. We just sit here, and the enemy can't really do anything to me. We have that concept, which I would love to be able to get a shell into. So let's see if that concept backs up. Nice. 365 into his tank. The enemy team only has 3 vehicles left at this point. We've done pretty good in this battle. We got the Waffenträger, we got the 121B, and we have the Lion, which we get a nice shell into the Lion. That puts us up to a lot of damage already. And what I'm hoping is to get a high explosive pen into the enemy Waffenträger. There you go. 526. That player wasn't running Spallliner, so I knew it was going to be a pretty free chunk of damage. And then that leaves us with really one tank left, which is the enemy 121B, who we're going to try and get behind, but I don't think this 121 is going to allow me to do that, which is a little bit irritating. But a little bit of driving later, there you go, we are able to get the clear. So there you have it. pretty solid game. As I said, I made a bit of a misplay in the beginning. I should have just immediately gone to where the T100LT was, but I kind of lingered in the middle, which did bleed me a bit of health. But we still ended up dealing 3,600 damage, killing 2 tanks, and finishing top on the team. It is such a great example of why the E5 is so good, right? The gun is accurate, the DPM is great, the pen is fantastic. There's really no area when I drive this tank and I'm like, oh darn, I'm about to die. So yeah, I think the E5 is fantastic. The next tier 10 we have is the Italian tech tree tank destroyer, the Minotauro. This vehicle is, again, another really, really easy tank, especially due to the fact that it has great armor in every single position. It has gun depression, 10 degrees, allows it to work any ridgeline very well. It has really, really good damage per shot at 490, and it has really stupid armor. So, in general, it's just a really dangerous tank if you're able to work it properly. And it's not actually that slow. Like, if you want a super heavy, this is definitely quicker than a super heavy, going at 32 kilometers per hour. And again, it features that really, really solid level of alpha damage, which means you can outtrade just about anything you're up against. So we have the T100 LTU crossed and lost, not actually as much as you'd think. 183 tried to shoot at him, didn't get the shell out. I actually have a teammate pushing me a little bit. That's fine, though. We're going to move up, and we'll see what we can do. We got the BZ-75. Oh, okay, that was really, really lame, but that's all right. We have an additional shell. And that's what's great about this tank, is that you have 2 shots. So even if you shoot the first one and you don't do much, you have another shot which you can still get some really easy shells out with. T100 LT is being pushed back. My mediums are doing a good job. We have to wait 7-ish more seconds and we'll have more damage out. So 3, 2, 1, and now we can move up. We can start aiming in on the WZ. There's 1 shell, 428. WZ shoots. We aim it on his lower plate. That was an awful roll. 371 from a 490. Yeah, that's pretty tragic. But we're up to 1,200 damage. We haven't bled any health. And this is why the Minno's so good. It's because you have this auto-reloading gun. You don't really have to poke much. You can just kind of chill. And then in return, I gain damage per minute when I just wait here. So we just wait a little bit longer. And just like that, we have our shells back. So I can poke this. We have the enemy CS, which we get an easy, 613 into. That is a absolutely monstrous roll. And if that Hovry decides to shoot me, which it probably will, we can still get a pretty easy pen out. So there you go, nice 474 right into the lower plate of the Hovry. Not too bad so far, not too bad at all. Now at this point, there's really not much I can do. The Hovry itself is just, it's making this game a little bit annoying because at the end of the day, I can't really poke when there's a tank destroyer that's going to camp back there. But our teammate's going to push up, which is obviously going to help out. Lion does a good job there. I'm going to wait for this WZ to ideally show me his hull. It was a pretty easy pen, but unfortunately just didn't go where I wanted it to. There you go, nice 556 damage shell. I'm going to actually dump my reserve shell. Now here's what's interesting about the Minnow. You lose damage per minute when you shoot the reserve shell. And you saw that, right? I now have to wait 15 seconds to get shells back into my tank. But dumping that shell also allowed us to bleed out that enemy 113 GFT and make them a one-shot. So I may have bled a bit of health poking, but in return, we also did a lot of damage. So now we already have our shell back. We just need to chill and cover for a little bit, and we can poke and be completely fine. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to be smart about this. We're going to go all the way wide over here. That way the Hovry doesn't have the opportunity to hit me. And that's why, because that Hovry did just clear our teammate, which is something to be a little bit cautious about. But we're going to aim it on the side of the BZ, get an easy clear into that tank. We have the rear of the Stridsvon, which we do not actually pen with a high explosive, but it doesn't matter because we fire our next shell and clear the Stridsvon right out of the game. I mean, this was such a good Minnow gameplay battle. Like, you get hauled down, and you just bleed everything. The only tank that penned us was the Hovry, which has by far the most penetration in tier 10, so it wasn't even a problem. Like, and by the way, even though we did get shot for like 560 by this Hovry when we poked, in return we always did like 1500 damage. So that's what's so good about the Minnow, is you have that armor, you have that gun, and it's got solid DPM for what it is. In general, really, really dangerous tank. And that brings us to the final tier 10 to finish off the video with, and that is the Type 71. This tier 10 Japanese super heavy is another fantastic vehicle, and it's got 2 different reasons why. You can either run gun depression on this tank or mobility. Now both options are really good. The mobility allows you to get in the position faster, but the gun depression allows you to work a ridgeline. Personally, I think gun depression is always going to be the better choice, and it's a pretty simple reason why. I mean, pretend you're on dead rail. Would you rather be able to work the ridgeline, or would you rather not? Like, it's very simple. Gun depression gives you much more flexibility than a little bit of mobility. So I'll tell you that right now. This game, we are going to move on up and see what we can do. We are on Mirage, which is actually a really cool map. It's pretty awesome to get this map. So what are we going to do here? Well, what do we have? We have 3 heavies. We have a Rhino, a Stridzvon, and a Concept against us. Okay. And the play that I'm going to make to begin with is I'm going to try and... Oh, well, we got the Rhino right in the open, so let's just get a super easy pennant to you, and we can back up from the Sheridan. Well, not bad. That's already 450 damage. Now, there's a couple things that really allow this Tier 10 Type 71 to be so dangerous, and the biggest one is the fact that this tank has an incredibly dangerous gun when it comes to its overall damage output and just what it has going for it. Now, that Concept got obliterated. Unfortunately, he came back at, like, the last moment, which I didn't want, but it's alright. We're going to move up this ridgeline over here. We have the Stridzvon crossing through mid, so we're going to poke and aim it on the Stridzvon. There you go. Lit that player on fire as well, and apparently they don't have a fire extinguisher, so that was 700 damage right there. Pretty free if you ask me. So, Stridzvon, I'm not too worried about that player. I'm not too worried about the Concept either. We actually got a bounce for 300, and I'm not even sure what shot at me, to be real. Yeah, I'm not sure. Oh, well, we have the 30B over here. Let's back up. Easy pen into the AMX 30B. Sweet. So far, we're doing pretty good. And we can see that, right? The Type 71 armor is great. We've gotten a lot of bounces so far. And the mobility on the Type, even without running the mobility equipment, is still pretty good. Like, it's nothing overpowered, but it's completely fine. We get a nice 430 shell into the enemy Rhino, and we're going to start reloading again. We have support from our team. We have the Concept over here. We're going to back up, and we're going to aim it on this Concept. There you go. Nice 434. Our teammate gets behind. We do have the line on our rear, which is a problem. However, I assume that our teammate's going to get the clearance to that player. We can get behind the Rhino, get a nice high explosive for 527, and at this point, I don't think that this Rhino is really enjoying our experience. So, there's 4 tanks left on the enemy team. We have the enemy line, which is all the way over here, who we're going to turn, aim in on, and get an easy pen into the lower plate. At this point, we've now dealt over 3,000 damage. And as you can see, we still have a lot of hit points left, and this tank still has a lot of armor to be using in this battle. And with the gun depression, you can see how flexible this tank is, right? I'm able to work any ridgeline I want, and I can just outplay my opponents. So while we may not have the mobility, we still have everything else we'd need. So we're going to move over here. We have the enemy Leopard in the back, which we get a nice 360 damage shell right into. Let's keep moving up here and just drive our tank a little bit. We do have the Sheridan, which gets a really annoying pennant to us, but there's not much I can really do about that. There you go. Nice 525 into the enemy Leopard, which is really nice. And at this point, the enemy's not doing too good. I can tell you that. There you go. That player's taken out. That leaves us with only a few tanks left. We have the 30B in the back, which, nice. Look at that. 400 damage shell into that 30B. That puts us up to 4,400 damage in this game. 30B is going to run right into the open and die to the Houri, which leaves us with only 1 tank left, the enemy Sheridan, which, Shell was very close to hitting the Sheridan, but unfortunately did not end up penetrating. Alright, well, this Sheridan's going to run away, but there's not really any spot they can run to. They're completely stuck here. We have enough health that the Sheridan cannot kill me, so at this point, this player is cooked. Like, there's nothing they can do. There's the Sheridan, and there's an easy high explosive right through the train car. So the Type 71 is fantastic, and we can see why. The gun itself is really good. It has solid accuracy, it has solid DPM, and when you pair the gun with the fact that this tank has ridiculously strong frontal protection, when you pair that with the fact that the Type 71 has some of the highest penetration in the game, 362 mils of premium, and the fact that you don't really lose damage per shot in this tank, you go from 420 to 400. Compare that to another tier 10 that has similar alpha. The IS-4 also has 420 damage per shot, and it loses a lot more. You go from 420 to 360, so you have a 40 alpha increase using a Type 71 when loading gold, which is a huge advantage. So the Type 71 in general is a really good tank, and it has a lot of capabilities that you just don't realize until you use it. So in general, we got some really good tier 10s. Hopefully you enjoyed today's video. If you did, make sure to click that subscribe button. I'll see you all in the next one. Bye-bye.